The sky over Atlanta had been gray all morning, a steady drizzle coating the streets with a reflective sheen that mirrored Jasmine Carter's mood. She hadn't realized how much silence could weigh until the phone rang. The sound sliced through the quiet like a knife, bringing a sense of foreboding she couldn't shake. Jasmine had grown accustomed to struggle. Her mother had passed away 3 years earlier, leaving her the weight of responsibility for her little sister, Sierra. At 17, Jasmine had learned to navigate life as both a guardian and a teenager, working odd jobs after school, helping Sierra with homework, and trying to stretch every dollar just to keep their apartment from falling into overdue notices. Life had never been easy, but they had always managed, finding comfort in each other's laughter, small victories, and the quiet hope that tomorrow might be better. Then came the phone call. Her hands shook as she answered. The voice on the other end was calm but professional, the type that never boded well. It took only a few sentences for Jasmine's world to fracture completely. Sierra had been hit by a car while crossing the street near their neighborhood grocery store. The paramedics had arrived too late. Her little sister, the one who had spent hours helping Jasmine braid her hair, the one who had made even the dullest days bright with her infectious giggle, was gone. Jasmine dropped the phone, her knees buckling under the weight of shock. Tears streamed down her face, blurring the already dim view of the rainy street outside their window. She didn't know how to breathe. All she could hear was the echo of Sierra's laughter, now a memory that felt impossibly far away. She rushed out into the hall of their apartment complex, calling for her neighbors, anyone, hoping to find someone to tell her this wasn't real. But the building was quiet. Everyone had retreated from the rain, leaving Jasmine alone with a grief that clawed at her chest. She sank to the floor, the cold tile pressing against her legs, as reality set in with a harsh finality. Her mind raced. The hospital had already sent the first notice of fees. Even in death, Sierra demanded costs Jasmine could not possibly pay. Funeral arrangements, caskets, burial plots. The numbers on the page felt like a mockery of her loss. She was broke, 17, and completely alone in facing this impossible situation. Jasmine's thoughts turned frantic. She considered calling distant relatives, former neighbors, anyone who might help. Each number she dialed ended the same way: voicemail, disconnection, no response. The despair of helplessness threatened to suffocate her. Then, in the back of her mind, a thought emerged, small and fragile: Levi Matthews. He was a name she had only ever heard in passing. A billionaire from New York, a tech mogul who had funded educational programs in Atlanta. She didn't know him personally, but in that moment, desperation left her with no other choice. If there was even the tiniest chance he could help her bury Sierra, she had to reach out. She had nothing else to lose. Jasmine grabbed her phone, hands still trembling. Her fingers hovered over the screen as she searched for any way to contact him. Social media, business contacts, anything. Hours passed, and the rain outside deepened into a downpour, soaking her hair and clothes as she moved through the city streets, driven by a determination that surpassed her fear. Finally, she found a verified email address connected to Levi Matthews' Philanthropic Foundation. Her heart pounded as she typed a message, every word trembling with raw emotion. "Sir, my name is Jasmine Carter. My sister has passed away, and I have no way to bury her. I don't know if you can help me, but I am asking for your kindness. Please, I am begging you." She hit send before she could second-guess herself. Her phone felt heavier now, burdened with hope and fear in equal measure. What if he ignored her? What if this plea, as desperate as it was, fell into the hands of people who wouldn't understand? Hours crawled by. Jasmine sat in the small, dimly lit living room, Sierra's favorite blanket draped over the couch where she had once napped. Every tick of the clock mocked her. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil inside her chest. Lightning streaked across the sky, illuminating the room in brief flashes, each one a stark reminder of the emptiness that now surrounded her. And then, just as her eyelids began to betray her with exhaustion, the phone buzzed. An incoming video call. The name displayed, Levi Matthews. Jasmine's breath caught in her throat. Could this be real? She hesitated for a heartbeat, then answered. The screen flickered, revealing a man in a sharply tailored suit, the skyline of New York City behind him. His face was stern, composed, almost intimidating. But there was a flicker of something, curiosity, maybe even empathy, in his eyes. Jasmine's voice trembled as she began again, the words pouring out in a torrent of grief. "Sir, can you bury my sister? I don't have anyone else to help me. Please, I am begging you." The connection held, and Levi Matthews didn't speak at first. His gaze seemed to pierce through the screen, weighing the sincerity of her words, the depth of her loss. Time stretched, heavy and unbearable. Finally, he said two words that Jasmine could hardly believe. "Yes, I'll help." A rush of relief mingled with disbelief. Tears blurred her vision again, but this time, they were tempered by the faintest spark of hope. She barely knew this man, yet in that moment he became a lifeline. But as she hung up the call and slumped back against the wall, a shadow of unease settled over her. Why would a billionaire help someone like her? Could she trust him? And more importantly, what if there were consequences she couldn't foresee? The rain outside intensified, drumming against the windows as if echoing the turmoil in her heart. Jasmine clutched Sierra's blanket tighter, unsure if relief or fear weighed more heavily. Somewhere in the distance, the city seemed alive with secrets, and she sensed that this journey, one born of desperation, was only beginning. And in that moment, beneath the storm and the heartbreak, Jasmine Carter realized that asking for help had changed everything, for better or worse. She had hope, but at what cost? And what would she have to face next to bury her sister? The next morning dawned over Atlanta with a pale, muted light, the kind that made everything seem both fragile and unforgiving. Jasmine sat on the edge of the couch, Sierra's blanket wrapped around her shoulders like a protective shield. The events of the previous day refused to settle. Her mind replayed the sound of the hospital phone, the words that had shattered her world, and the fleeting hope sparked by Levi Matthews' response. Yet, as she stared at her tiny apartment, reality pressed down on her like a weight she could not lift. Bills were stacked neatly on the kitchen counter, each one a reminder of her family's financial struggle. The rent was overdue, the electricity threatened to be cut, and now Sierra's funeral loomed over her like a storm cloud she had no way to escape. Jasmine's first instinct was to reach out to anyone who might help. She dialed numbers she hadn't used in years, hoping for a miracle. Her aunt in Ohio, distant cousins in Georgia, old neighbors who might remember her family fondly. Each call ended with the same response: a voicemail, a busy signal, or silence. Some people had moved, others had their own lives, and nobody had the means to help. Her desperation grew. She walked through the apartment, her feet dragging across the worn carpet, touching the scattered toys and books Sierra had left behind. Each item carried a memory: Sierra laughing while building a tower of blocks, singing at the top of her lungs to a song only she seemed to know, or shyly handing Jasmine a crumpled drawing she had made at school. These moments now felt unbearably distant. Jasmine considered going to a local charity or the church she and Sierra occasionally attended, hoping for assistance. But the organizations she knew were stretched thin themselves, and even if they could offer some support, it would not cover the full cost of a funeral. She was 17, broke and alone, facing an impossible reality. Her stomach ached as she sat down at the small kitchen table, staring at a notebook filled with calculations she couldn't hope to reconcile. Each number seemed to mock her: the casket, the burial plot, the flowers, the fees for the funeral home. How could she possibly afford any of it? Time seemed to stretch endlessly, the minutes heavy with despair. The rain outside had stopped, but the gray sky remained, casting a pall over the city that matched her mood. Jasmine's mind raced with questions she had no answers to. Where could she turn? How could she bury her sister without money, without family, without help? In a moment of quiet desperation, she pulled out her laptop and typed Levi Matthews' name into the search bar. The more she read, the more she realized that reaching out to him was her only option. Articles about his charitable work, donations to schools, and community programs painted a picture of a man who might understand loss. He was known for helping struggling families, but could he help her? Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as she considered the implications. What if he ignored her? What if he was like everyone else, too busy, too powerful, too detached to care about a 17-year-old girl and her dead sister? Fear and doubt twisted in her chest, but a stronger force drove her forward: love for Sierra. She had no other choice. Jasmine wrote and rewrote her message multiple times, tears smudging the screen and blurring the words she typed. Each version carried her grief and desperation, a raw plea for help that she couldn't hide behind polite phrasing or measured sentences. Finally, she composed an email that said exactly what she felt, no more, no less. Sir, my name is Jasmine Carter. My sister has died and I have no one to help me bury her. I do not know if you can help, but I am asking for your kindness. Please, I am begging you. With trembling hands, she hit send. The message disappeared into the digital void, and she was left staring at the screen, her heart hammering with fear and hope. The silence that followed was deafening. 4 hours she refreshed her inbox, praying for a reply, each moment stretching into an eternity. Her phone battery dwindled, the small apartment darkening with the late afternoon shadows. Jasmine thought about giving up, about accepting that Sierra's final rest might not be properly honored. But the thought of letting her sister go without dignity made her stomach churn. She could not accept it. She would not. The rain returned as evening approached, pattering softly against the window. Jasmine sat by the glass, watching the streets below, imagining Sierra's laughter echoing through them. She whispered to herself, a fragile hope clinging to her words. Please, help me. The shadows lengthened in the room, the city outside moving on without pause, unaware of the grief consuming a small apartment on the edge of Atlanta. Jasmine felt the enormity of her loneliness. There was no family to turn to, no friends who could provide the support she needed. Only the faint glimmer of hope that Levi Matthews might answer. And then, just as she was about to lose herself in despair, her phone buzzed. A notification appeared, an incoming video call. Her heart skipped a beat. Could it really be him? Could this be the lifeline she had prayed for all day? Her fingers hovered over the screen, hesitating for just a moment before answering. The screen flickered to life. On the other side, a man sat in a pristine office, the lights of New York City glittering behind him. His expression was serious, almost unreadable, but there was a weight in his eyes that made Jasmine's heart thrum with cautious hope. Before she could speak, he said nothing, just looked at her. And in that silence, every fear, every worry, every ounce of grief collided in her chest. Jasmine swallowed hard and whispered, almost to herself, almost as a prayer. Sir, can you bury my sister? The man on the screen leaned forward slightly. His gaze did not waver. Time seemed to stop. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he spoke 2 words that would change everything. Yes, I will. A tear slid down Jasmine's cheek, but a shadow of doubt remained. Why would a man like this help her? Could she truly trust him? And more importantly, what was she stepping into by accepting this help? Jasmine had hope, but danger and secrets were already closing in around her. And she didn't know it yet. The rain had finally stopped in Atlanta, leaving the streets slick and shimmering in the dim glow of streetlights. Jasmine sat at her kitchen table, the laptop still open in front of her. The video call from Levi Matthews had ended hours ago, but the memory of his calm, steady gaze lingered. Even though he had agreed to help, a strange unease settled over her. Why would a man of his wealth and stature care about her, a girl from a struggling neighborhood? The question gnawed at her, blending with the grief that refused to subside. She pushed herself to stand and began pacing the small apartment, passing the scattered remnants of Sierra's life. Her little sister had been full of light, drawing pictures, playing with her stuffed animals, singing songs that Jasmine had tried to learn. Every corner of the apartment carried a memory, and each memory now felt painfully raw. Jasmine's chest tightened as she realized she would never hear Sierra's laugh again. But there was a spark. Levi Matthews' name had entered her life like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. She had read countless articles about him, a self-made billionaire who had founded a tech empire in New York, known for his ruthless business decisions, but also for his charitable work. He funded schools, educational programs, and community centers in Atlanta and other major cities across the United States. People admired him for his success, yet there were whispers that he rarely involved himself in personal cases like hers. Still he had said yes. Those two words kept echoing in Jasmine's mind. Yes, I will. She returned to her laptop and began searching more carefully, digging into every article, every press release, every snippet of news she could find about Levi. Each headline painted a picture of a man who had clawed his way from humble beginnings to unimaginable wealth. There were stories of him helping teenagers finish school, supporting local businesses, and funding hospital programs. But there were also stories of cutthroat corporate battles, betrayals in business partnerships, and a reputation for being distant and cold. Jasmine's hope wavered between excitement and fear. Could someone who had built his empire on hard decisions truly understand the heartbreak of a girl like her? Could he feel what it meant to lose someone so precious? She wasn't sure, but she knew one thing: she had no other option. If Levi didn't help, Sierra might not even have a proper burial. She leaned back in her chair, her fingers nervously tapping on the table. The thought of reaching out directly, not just through email, filled her with anxiety. What if he ignored her again? What if he saw her as just another desperate plea among countless others? Her heart raced as she considered the enormity of her request. Asking a billionaire to fund her sister's funeral was audacious, almost reckless, but desperation had a way of overriding fear. In a quiet moment, Jasmine picked up Sierra's favorite stuffed rabbit and hugged it tightly. The plush toy smelled faintly of her sister's shampoo, a small comfort in a world that suddenly felt unbearably cruel. She whispered to it softly, as if Sierra could hear her. "Please, someone has to help us." Hours passed, and the evening grew darker. The city outside was alive with the usual hum of traffic and distant sirens, oblivious to the grief consuming a small apartment on the outskirts of town. Jasmine stared at her reflection in the laptop screen, seeing a girl she barely recognized. The determination in her eyes was mixed with exhaustion, sadness, and a quiet stubbornness that had always been her strength. She refused to give up on Sierra, no matter how impossible the situation seemed. Finally, after several attempts, she found a direct contact for Levi Matthews' philanthropic office. With trembling hands, she crafted a short, heartfelt message. "Sir, I know you are very busy, but I am desperate. My sister has died, and I cannot afford her funeral. I have no family to help me. Please, I am asking for your kindness." She hesitated for a long moment before hitting send, her fingers shaking over the mouse. Then, with a deep breath, she leaned back, letting the weight of uncertainty settle around her. There was nothing more she could do but wait. The minutes stretched into hours, and Jasmine tried to distract herself, pacing the apartment and cleaning small corners in an attempt to quiet her anxious mind. She checked her email repeatedly, her eyes scanning every new message with a mix of hope and dread. As the night deepened, Jasmine felt the apartment closing in on her. The shadows seemed longer, the silence heavier. Her thoughts turned to what it would mean if Levi didn't respond. Could she somehow scrape together enough money on her own? The idea was overwhelming. Even her part-time jobs could not have prepared her for a funeral's cost. Her phone buzzed suddenly, and Jasmine jumped, her heart lurching in her chest. An unknown number flashed on the screen. Hesitation gripped her. Was this someone offering help, or was it a scam, or worse, a threat? She hesitated, her thumb hovering over the answer button. Finally, she pressed it, and a calm, unfamiliar voice greeted her. The call connected, and Jasmine's breath caught. It wasn't Levi yet, but it was someone from his office. The message was simple, yet it held the promise she had been praying for. Levi Matthews had received her email and would personally review her request. They needed to schedule a call. Relief and fear collided inside her. Relief that someone was listening. Fear at the thought of what she might have to face in speaking with him. Her mind raced with questions. Would he see her as a fraud? Would he care about her sister at all? For the first time in hours, Jasmine felt a fragile spark of hope. She tucked the laptop close, her hands trembling as she whispered into the quiet apartment. "Please, help us. Sierra deserves this." Outside, the city lights twinkled in the distance, unaware of the storm of emotions in a small apartment in Atlanta. Jasmine knew this was only the beginning. Reaching out to a billionaire was a gamble, a step into unknown territory, but she had no other choice. And in the quiet of the night, She realized that sometimes desperation demanded boldness, even if it terrified her. She had found a way to reach him, but what would happen when she finally spoke to Levi Matthews directly? Would he understand her grief, or turn her away? The early morning light seeped through the blinds of Jasmine's apartment, casting thin stripes across the floor. The city of Atlanta stirred awake outside, the hum of distant traffic a constant reminder of life moving on, indifferent to the heartbreak consuming one small apartment. Jasmine sat on the edge of her worn couch, her hands tightly gripping Sierra's stuffed rabbit. Her heart pounded with anxiety, anticipation, and a fragile hope that had yet to fully take hold. Today was the day she would speak to Levi Matthews. The thought alone made her stomach twist into knots. She had written emails, waited desperately for responses, and felt the weight of every unanswered hour pressing on her. But now, with the video call scheduled, she had no more time to hesitate. This was her chance, her one shot to secure a proper farewell for her sister. Jasmine stared at the laptop screen, refreshing it every few seconds. Her fingers hovered over the mouse, reluctant to click join call, until she could summon the courage. She inhaled deeply, trying to steady her trembling hands. "You can do this," she whispered to herself. "Sierra needs this. You have to be strong." The screen flickered, and suddenly there he was, Levi Matthews. Even through the video feed he was imposing, tall, sharp-featured, with a presence that could command any room. The skyline of New York City stretched behind him, a dazzling contrast to Jasmine's modest apartment. Despite the distance and disparity in their worlds, he looked directly at her, his gaze steady, weighing, and yet not unkind. Jasmine's voice caught in her throat as she began, the words trembling but resolute. "Sir, my name is Jasmine Carter. My sister, my little sister, she's gone. I have no way to bury her, and I don't have anyone to turn to. I don't know if you can help, but I'm begging you. Please." For a long moment Levi said nothing. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating, filling every corner of Jasmine's tiny apartment. Her pulse raced. Did he hear her? Did he understand her? Or had she just wasted this one chance at help? Finally he spoke. His voice was calm, measured, but carried a weight of experience that made it impossible to dismiss. "I've read your message, Jasmine. I know what you've written is true. I will help." Relief surged through Jasmine like a tidal wave, but it was quickly tempered by disbelief. She stared at the screen, searching for signs of trickery, of indifference, of a catch she hadn't seen. But all she saw was sincerity, a quiet acknowledgement of her pain. Her voice shook as she responded, barely able to form the words. You'll really help? You mean it?" Levi nodded slightly, his expression unchanging. "Yes, I will make the arrangements myself. You don't have to do anything but be here for your sister." For a moment, Jasmine could barely breathe. The magnitude of his words hit her in waves. This man, someone who had built an empire, someone whose life was worlds apart from hers, was choosing to intervene in her tragedy. It seemed almost unreal. But even as relief began to wash over her, a flicker of unease remained. Why would a billionaire help someone like her? Surely there must be a reason, a condition, or a catch she hadn't considered. Her instincts whispered caution. Jasmine cleared her throat, trying to steady herself. I don't know how to thank you. I can't pay you back. I just want to make sure my sister is at peace." Levi's gaze softened ever so slightly. "You don't need to thank me. What matters is honoring her memory. That's all I want." The conversation continued for a few more minutes, with Levi asking practical questions about Sierra's favorite things, the type of ceremony she might have liked, and where her friends and neighbors could gather to pay their respects. Jasmine found herself slowly opening up, sharing anecdotes about Sierra. Her love of drawing, her giggles when chasing birds in the park, her small acts of kindness that often went unnoticed. Each story made Levi listen more intently, and Jasmine felt a strange comfort in being heard, in having someone care so deeply about her sister. Yet even in this moment of connection, shadows lingered. The world outside Jasmine's apartment seemed too large, too unpredictable. She could not ignore the gnawing thought that perhaps someone might be watching, that not everyone in her life, or in Levi's, was as trustworthy as they seemed. The call ended with Levi promising to send someone to handle the funeral arrangements immediately, ensuring that Jasmine would not have to worry about a single detail. Relief flooded her once again, but the unease persisted like a low hum in the back of her mind. After she hung up, Jasmine sat back in the couch, her body trembling from the intensity of the conversation. For the first time in days, a faint smile touched her lips. There was hope, a fragile, delicate hope that Sierra would finally have a proper farewell. But even as she clutched Sierra's blanket, a small part of her could not shake the feeling that her journey was only beginning. The kindness of a stranger, the generosity of a billionaire, and the shadows that lingered around her life suggested that the path ahead would not be simple. Jasmine had secured help, but unknown dangers were already stirring, and the road to burying her sister would reveal secrets she could never have anticipated. The sun was beginning its slow descent over Atlanta, casting long shadows across the quiet streets. Jasmine Carter sat at the kitchen table, her hands tightly clasped together, staring at the laptop screen that had delivered the most unbelievable news of her life. Levi Matthews, the billionaire whose name she had whispered like a fragile hope just days before, had agreed to help. Her mind raced. She had imagined 1,000 outcomes: rejection, indifference, even ridicule. But none had prepared her for the reality of a man so distant from her life, so removed from her struggles, saying in essence, "I will take care of this." Jasmine's initial relief was almost suffocating. She leaned back in her chair, the edges of exhaustion and grief pressing against her, and let herself breathe for the first time in hours. Yet even in that fragile moment of hope, a strange tension lingered. Why would a billionaire choose to intervene in the life of a teenage girl from a struggling neighborhood? There had to be a reason, a hidden motive she couldn't yet see. She thought about Levi Matthews as a man, not just a name in the news. Tall, composed, and intimidating, yet capable of listening and understanding her grief in a way that no one else had. The thought made her stomach twist, not from fear this time, but from the weight of uncertainty. Could she truly trust him? Determined to ensure that everything would proceed smoothly, Jasmine spent the evening preparing. She gathered photographs of Sierra, small drawings her sister had made, and a list of her favorite songs. Every item was a testament to Sierra's short but bright life, and every item carried a pang of sorrow that made Jasmine's chest ache. She packed them carefully, knowing that Levi's team, or perhaps Levi himself, would want to know every detail that mattered about her sister. Hours later, as the city outside began to quiet, a knock came at the door. Jasmine's heart leapt. She wasn't sure what to expect. Could it be Levi's assistant? A representative? Or perhaps someone else entirely? When she opened the door, a woman in her mid-30s stood there, professional yet warm, holding a folder and a tablet. She introduced herself as Vanessa Turner, Levi's personal assistant. Her presence was calm but authoritative, carrying a sense of efficiency that immediately put Jasmine on edge. "Jasmine Carter?" Vanessa asked. Her voice was polite, yet carried a weight that suggested she had seen many desperate cases before. "Yes," Jasmine whispered, her throat tight with nerves. I'm glad you're here." Vanessa nodded, placing the folder on the small table and opening it. "Levi Matthews has agreed to cover all arrangements for your sister's funeral. He wants to ensure everything is done respectfully and according to what she would have wanted." Jasmine blinked, unable to speak for a moment. The enormity of the statement sank in slowly. A proper casket, a burial plot, flowers, music, everything. It was more than she had dared hope for, more than she had imagined possible in her grief-stricken state. "Thank you," she finally managed, her voice breaking. I don't know how to repay him." Vanessa offered a small, understanding smile. "You don't need to. That's the point. Levi wants to help because it's the right thing to do." Still, Jasmine couldn't shake the lingering unease. Generosity at such a scale often came with strings attached, or so she had been taught by a life where kindness was rare and often manipulated. Her instincts whispered caution, though she could not pinpoint why. Over the next few hours, Vanessa helped Jasmine organize Sierra's belongings, photographs, and notes about the funeral. Each item Jasmine handed over felt like letting go of a part of her sister, a small fragment of a life she could never reclaim. But it was necessary, and for the first time, Jasmine began to feel a glimmer of relief. Yet even as she prepared, she noticed small things that unsettled her. A car parked across the street that seemed out of place, a shadow at the corner of her apartment building that disappeared when she looked directly. The city, usually so familiar, now felt strange, almost watchful. Vanessa noticed her unease. "Are you all right?" she asked, glancing at Jasmine. Jasmine nodded quickly, forcing a smile. I think so. Just tired." But inside, she couldn't ignore the prickling sensation that something else was already moving around her life, something she hadn't yet seen. That night, as Jasmine lay in bed clutching Sierra's blanket, her thoughts drifted to the future. A proper funeral was now within reach, and Levi Matthews' name had become a lifeline. But a shadow of uncertainty lingered, reminding her that not every kindness in the world came without questions or complications. Jasmine had been given hope, but unseen eyes were already watching, and the path to burying her sister was about to reveal more than just grief. The morning air felt heavy when Jasmine stepped outside her apartment the next day. Atlanta skies were overcast, a dull gray that mirrored the quiet ache settling inside her chest. She clutched the small envelope Vanessa had left with her, a collection of papers outlining the funeral arrangements Levi's team would handle. Everything should have felt easier now. She finally had help. She finally had direction. But somehow the world around her felt more tense than before. More alert. As if something unseen had shifted. She walked toward the bus stop, her hoodie pulled tightly around her face. The streets were calm, the sound of early commuters echoing softly in the distance. But Jasmine couldn't shake the strange tension crawling across her skin. She kept glancing over her shoulder, unsure of what she expected to see. Halfway down the block she stopped. A dark sedan parked on the corner. Windows tinted. Engine off. It hadn't been there the day before, at least she didn't think it had. But something about it felt familiar. As if it had followed her, silently trailing her steps. Jasmine forced herself to breathe. "You're just tired," she told herself. "You're grieving. You're imagining things." Still, her heart raced as she turned away from the car and continued down the sidewalk. The feeling of being watched lingered, thick and suffocating. She reached the community center where she used to volunteer with Sierra. The place was quiet at this hour, the usual chatter of kids replaced by a low hum of fluorescent lights. She stepped inside, needing a moment of normalcy, anything to ground her. As she walked through the hallway, memories flooded her mind. Sierra chasing balloons during a holiday event. Sierra laughing while helping arrange donated clothes. Sierra drawing pictures to encourage other kids who felt lonely. Jasmine blinked back tears. Everything reminded her of the little sister she could no longer protect. The center director, Ms. Rhodes, a kind woman in her late 50s, appeared from one of the offices. Her face softened when she saw Jasmine. "Sweetheart, you came today," she said quietly, stepping closer. Jasmine nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "I needed to be somewhere she loved." Ms. Rhodes wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "How are you holding up?" "I don't know," Jasmine admitted. "I'm trying. Someone's helping with the burial. A man from New York. A billionaire." Ms. Rhodes raised her brows. "Well, that's unexpected." "I know," Jasmine breathed. "It feels unreal. He's been kind. Too kind, maybe. I keep wondering why he's doing all this." Ms. Rhodes studied her carefully. "Sometimes people surprise us. But trust your instincts. Something feels off, pay attention. Grief can cloud your judgment." Jasmine nodded, but her mind was already replaying the image of the dark car parked outside her apartment. Her instincts were screaming about that. She stayed at the center for more than an hour, helping reorganize a few donated items just to keep her hands busy. When she finally stepped outside again, the wind had picked up, carrying the smell of rain. As she walked toward the bus stop, her steps slowed. The same dark sedan was parked near the corner of the street. Same position. Same angle. Same stillness. Her breath caught. This was no coincidence. Her pulse hammered in her ears as she reached into her pocket for her phone. Should she call someone? Vanessa? Levi? The police? Or would she sound paranoid? Before she could decide, the back window of the sedan lowered, just an inch, then stopped. Jasmine froze, rooted in place. A silhouette sat inside. She couldn't see the face, just the shape of a head turned in her direction, watching her. The window didn't lower any further, but the message was clear. We see you. Jasmine took a shaky step back, gripping her phone tighter. She wanted to run, but her legs felt like concrete. The urge to flee battled with the urge to confront whoever was inside. Finally, she forced her voice to work. Can I help you? She shouted, though it came out weaker than she intended. The window rose slowly, covering the silhouette again. The engine started. The car pulled away without haste, rolling down the street as calmly as if nothing were wrong. Jasmine's knees nearly buckled. Her chest tightened, and she struggled to breathe through the panic closing in. They were watching me. Someone was watching me. But why? Because she asked a billionaire for help? Because Sierra's death wasn't as simple as it appeared? Or because someone didn't want her to get answers? A cold shiver crept up her spine. That evening, Jasmine met with Vanessa again. The assistant arrived carrying documents about the burial plot, a list of funeral homes and music options. Jasmine tried to focus, tried to listen to Vanessa's explanations, but her mind remained stuck on the sedan. When Vanessa paused to review the paperwork, Jasmine finally spoke. Vanessa, can I ask you something? The assistant looked up, attentive. Of course. Does Levi have security watching me? Like, right now, around my home? Vanessa blinked, clearly caught off guard. Security? Jasmine, if Levi arranged anything like that, I would know. What? What happened? Jasmine hesitated, unsure if she sounded foolish. There's a car that keeps showing up. Dark, tinted windows. I keep seeing it near my street. Today it followed me. Vanessa's confident expression barely shifted, but her eyes sharpened. She wasn't dismissing Jasmine, she was evaluating the threat. Did you get a plate number? Vanessa asked. Jasmine shook her head. No. I was too scared. Vanessa closed the folder. I'll look into it, but I want you to be careful. Don't walk alone at night. And if you see that car again, call me immediately. Jasmine nodded, relieved someone finally believed her. But just when she thought the tension might ease, Vanessa added something that sent a chill deeper than before. Jasmine, if someone is following you, it might not be about Levi helping you. Sometimes things are connected in ways we don't see yet. What do you mean? Jasmine breathed. Vanessa hesitated, only for a moment, then shook her head. Let's not jump to conclusions. Just stay alert. But Jasmine heard what she didn't say. There might be more to Sierra's death than you know. A sound outside made Jasmine turn toward the window. Traffic moving, a distant horn, normal city noises. Yet her heart wouldn't slow. Something was happening behind the scenes. Something she couldn't name yet. And whatever it was getting closer. As the shadows around Jasmine deepened, the first hints of a hidden truth begin to surface, and the mystery surrounding Sierra's death grows darker than she ever imagined. The days following Sierra's passing blurred into a haze of grief, funeral preparations, and the strange, unsettling feeling that Jasmine was being watched. The dark sedan had disappeared, but its shadow lingered in her mind. Every sound outside, every flicker of movement in the hallway made her jump. She had begun to walk a little faster, glance over her shoulder a little more often, and question every stranger's intent. It was on one of these afternoons, while she was sitting in her apartment going over Sierra's belongings, that a knock came at the door. Not the polite, professional knock of Vanessa Turner, but a firm, deliberate one. Jasmine froze, her heart beating violently against her ribs. "Who is it?" she called softly, trying to mask the fear in her voice. Detective Hughes, a deep, steady voice responded. "Atlanta Police Department. I'd like a word with you." Jasmine's mind raced. Detective? Why would a detective come here? Sierra's death was an accident, wasn't it? She hesitated, then unlocked the door. A man in his late 40s stood there. His face was stern, eyes sharp, and his uniform pressed and neat. He carried a folder under his arm, the insignia of the department catching the dim light from the hallway. His presence was authoritative, and Jasmine immediately felt a mixture of relief and unease. "Detective Hughes?" she asked, her voice small. "Yes," he replied. "May I come in?" Jasmine stepped aside, letting him in. She noticed the way he scanned the apartment as he entered, taking in every detail with a practiced eye. When he finally looked at her, his expression softened slightly, but only enough to seem professional, not sympathetic. "I'm here regarding your sister's accident," he began. "We're reviewing all traffic incidents in the area. I wanted to speak with you directly about what happened that day." Jasmine swallowed, her throat dry. I've told the hospital everything. I don't know what else I can say." Detective Hughes nodded, flipping open his folder and pulling out a few sheets of paper. "I understand this is difficult. But even though the accident seems straightforward, there are a few things that raised questions. I just need to clarify some details to close the case properly." He asked questions about Sierra's movements that day, where she was going, what time she left the house, how she crossed the street. Jasmine answered honestly, her voice shaking as she recounted the events. Every word brought a pang of grief, but she knew she had to cooperate. After a few minutes, Detective Hughes leaned back slightly, observing her carefully. "I know you're going through a lot. Losing a sibling is devastating. And I want to help you get closure." Jasmine nodded, her throat tight. "Thank you. I just want her to rest. That's all I want." Hughes paused, then added something that made her heart skip a beat. "Also, if you've noticed anything unusual, anything that felt out of place in the days leading up to or after the accident, now is the time to tell me. Even the smallest detail might be important." Jasmine hesitated. She thought about the dark sedan, the shadowy presence she had felt for days, and the strange unease creeping through her apartment. She hadn't told Vanessa yet, let alone anyone else. But now, with Detective Hughes here, his position of authority made her pause. "Do I trust him?" I did see a car," she admitted cautiously. "Dark, tinted windows. It seemed to be following me, and I think it might be connected." Hughes' expression remained unreadable. "Can you describe it? License plate make anything unusual?" I didn't get the plate. It was fast and I was scared." Hughes nodded. He jotted down notes, his pen moving quickly across the page. "All right. We'll look into that. And thank you for telling me. This might be nothing, but it's always better to be thorough." Jasmine exhaled, feeling a mixture of relief and lingering fear. The detective seemed professional, but something in the way he observed her apartment, the way his gaze lingered on her possessions, the careful, almost calculated questions, set her on edge. She couldn't explain it, but there was a subtle tension that made her stomach twist. As Hughes prepared to leave, he leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. "Jasmine, I know you're relying on Mr. Matthews' help. That's fine. But I want you to be careful. Sometimes accidents like these, they're not what they seem." Jasmine's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" Hughes straightened, his expression neutral again. "I just want you to stay vigilant. Ask questions, trust your instincts. Grief can cloud judgment, and sometimes the truth is hidden beneath layers we don't expect." He handed her a card. "If you notice anything else, suspicious people, unusual cars, anyone approaching you, call me immediately. I'll check it out." Jasmine took the card with trembling hands. She felt both reassured and more alarmed than before. The detective's warning lingered in her mind, a shadow that made her wonder what she hadn't seen yet. Once he left, Jasmine sat on her couch, staring at the card. The name printed on it seemed normal, official, trustworthy. Yet a small voice in her head whispered a warning she couldn't ignore. "There's more here than you realize." Her thoughts turned to Levi Matthews. He had promised to help, to ensure Sierra's burial went smoothly. But even his involvement now felt complicated. What did Detective Hughes know? What could he uncover? And more importantly, why did the warning feel so personal, as if it applied directly to her life in ways she couldn't yet see? Outside, the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows through her apartment window. Jasmine realized with a shiver that grief was only the beginning of her journey. The world she thought she understood, Atlanta, her apartment, her neighborhood, was already shifting in ways she didn't yet comprehend. A man with authority had entered her life, offering help, but his words carried shadows. Could Detective Hughes be friend or foe? And what secrets might he uncover about Sierra's death? The week after Detective Hughes' visit passed in a blur of activity, tension, and a mix of grief and cautious hope. Jasmine Carter had never imagined she would be coordinating her little sister's funeral with the involvement of a billionaire. Yet, there she was, organizing every detail with the careful attention of someone who wanted nothing less than perfection for Sierra's final farewell. Vanessa Turner, Levi Matthews' assistant, arrived early that morning with a sleek black folder in hand, containing the funeral arrangements, contracts, and suggestions for flowers, music, and readings. Her presence brought both reassurance and a subtle reminder of the strange intersection of worlds Jasmine now inhabited. "Good morning, Jasmine," Vanessa said warmly. "We'll go through everything today so you can make the choices that matter to Sierra's memory." Jasmine nodded, though her hands trembled as she clutched Sierra's favorite blanket. She could still feel the echo of grief coursing through her body. She wanted everything to be right. Sierra deserved nothing less. They started with the casket. Vanessa laid out brochures with photographs of polished wooden caskets, velvet-lined interiors, and delicate carvings. Jasmine ran her fingers over the smooth images, imagining Sierra's tiny frame inside. Tears pricked her eyes, but she forced herself to focus. "Which one feels right?" Vanessa asked softly. Jasmine hesitated, eyes scanning each option. One casket, dark mahogany with a simple design, caught her attention. "It's elegant, quiet, not flashy but dignified," she thought. "That one," she whispered. Vanessa nodded, noting her choice. "Perfect. Now the burial plot. Levi has arranged for a plot in Green Meadows Cemetery. It's quiet, shaded by trees with a little stream nearby. He wanted it to feel peaceful." Jasmine felt a fragile sense of relief. Green Meadows was a place she had passed countless times, a park-like cemetery that seemed serene. It was far enough from her apartment to be peaceful, but close enough that she could visit Sierra whenever she wanted. Next came the flowers. Jasmine thought about what Sierra loved: sunflowers, daisies, lilies. She imagined her little sister running through a field of yellow blooms, laughing as she twirled and spun. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she smiled softly. "Let's do sunflowers," Jasmine said, voice breaking. "Lots of them." Vanessa made the note, her expression gentle. "It's perfect. They'll brighten the space." Music was next. Jasmine had debated this for hours in her head. Sierra had loved songs that lifted her spirits, even in the darkest moments. Vanessa suggested soft piano pieces, hymns, and some modern songs that were simple but heartfelt. Jasmine listened carefully, imagining the melody floating over the gravesite. "Can we include one of her favorites?" Jasmine asked. Vanessa nodded. "Of course. Whatever you choose, it will be honored." As the arrangements continued, Jasmine felt a mix of comfort and unease. Everything was being taken care of, yet she couldn't shake the lingering feeling that the world around her was more complicated than she understood. She remembered the dark sedan, the Detective Hughes warning, and a faint sense of eyes watching from the shadows. Her mind drifted briefly to Levi Matthews. He had promised to oversee these arrangements personally. Jasmine had yet to meet him in person, and the thought of a man so distant from her life becoming involved in something so personal was both comforting and intimidating. Vanessa noticed her hesitation. "Are you all right?" she asked. Jasmine nodded quickly, brushing away tears. I'm just tired. It's a lot to process." Vanessa offered a small, understanding smile. "That's normal. Take breaks. You don't have to do everything at once." The day continued with careful planning. Jasmine chose a dress for the funeral, simple, respectful, a soft shade of blue that Sierra had liked. She selected readings, poems, and even a short speech she planned to give. Each choice was heavy with emotion, but it was also cathartic, a way to honor the little sister she had lost. By late afternoon, the final details were set. Vanessa gathered the folders and documents, smiling reassuringly. "Everything is arranged, Jasmine. Levi has taken care of the rest. Your sister will have the farewell she deserves. Jasmine exhaled, the weight on her shoulders lifting slightly. She had imagined so many scenarios where she might not be able to give Sierra the proper goodbye, and yet here it was, almost real. But as the evening sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across her apartment, Jasmine felt that familiar prickle of unease. There were still unanswered questions. Who had been watching her? Why had Detective Hughes seemed so cautious? And what did Levi's involvement truly mean for her life? As she packed away the folders, a faint sound outside her window made her pause, a soft rustling, subtle but distinct. She froze, heart pounding, and looked out. The street was quiet. No cars, no people. Yet the sensation persisted, a whisper in the back of her mind that she wasn't alone. She stepped back from the window, shaking her head. I'm exhausted, she thought. I just need to rest. Tomorrow will be enough. And yet, deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. Sierra's funeral would mark a turning point, not just a goodbye, but the start of a journey into truths she hadn't yet imagined. Everything was arranged for Sierra's farewell, yet shadows lurked nearby, and Jasmine sensed that someone, maybe more than one, was watching her every move, waiting for a moment she couldn't predict. The morning of Sierra's funeral arrived with a calm that felt almost unnatural to Jasmine Carter. The streets of Atlanta were quieter than usual, the clouds hanging low in a muted gray, casting a soft light over the city. Jasmine felt a strange mix of dread and relief as she prepared to leave her apartment. Today was the day she would say goodbye to her little sister, yet deep inside, a gnawing feeling told her that this farewell would not be as simple as she imagined. Vanessa Turner arrived promptly, her presence professional but comforting. She carried folders with last-minute details, confirming the flowers, music, and seating arrangements. Jasmine clutched the sunflowers she had chosen for Sierra's casket, their bright yellow a stark contrast to the somber atmosphere surrounding her. Jasmine, Vanessa said gently, everything is ready. Levi has personally ensured that your sister's wishes, your wishes, are honored. All you need to do is be there. Jasmine nodded, forcing a small, shaky smile. Be there, she repeated in her mind. It sounded deceptively simple. But she knew grief wasn't simple, and even less so when the world around her seemed suddenly larger, more unpredictable, and full of unseen eyes. As they arrived at Green Meadows Cemetery, Jasmine's breath caught. The place was beautiful, serene, and quiet, with tall trees swaying gently in the morning breeze. The burial plot was ready, adorned with flowers, and a soft patch of sunlight broke through the clouds, illuminating Sierra's final resting place. Jasmine felt a wave of emotion crash over her, a mix of sorrow, love, and disbelief that this day had come so quickly. Yet, amid the quiet, Vanessa noticed Jasmine's tension and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. It's okay to feel everything. Today is about Sierra, and we'll make sure she has the farewell she deserves. The ceremony began with soft piano music, a melody that Sierra had loved. Friends, neighbors, and a few distant relatives were gathered, their expressions solemn, their eyes glistening with tears. Jasmine could feel the weight of their gaze, a shared acknowledgement of her grief and the loss that had touched all their lives. Everything was going as Jasmine had imagined, until the first surprise arrived. A sleek black car slowly rolled into the cemetery parking lot, and Jasmine felt a chill run down her spine. She recognized the car immediately. It was similar to the one she had seen lingering near her apartment days ago. Her pulse quickened, and she instinctively took a step back, clutching the sunflowers tighter. From the car stepped a man in a tailored suit, tall and imposing, with an expression that was difficult to read. He approached calmly, and with a brief nod to Vanessa, he made his way toward Jasmine. "Jasmine Carter?" he asked in a low, deliberate voice. She hesitated, her mind racing. Who is this? Another stranger? Someone connected to Levi? Or something else entirely? Yes, she replied cautiously. The man held out his hand, which she did not take. Instead, he opened a small folder revealing photographs, grainy images taken from surveillance cameras near her apartment. He slid the folder toward her, his gaze piercing. These were taken in the days leading up to Sierra's accident, he said. You need to know who's been watching you, and why. Jasmine's hands shook as she looked through the photos. There was the dark sedan, just as she remembered, parked across from her apartment. But more than that, there were images of someone entering her building, lingering in shadows, always watching, always silent. Tears welled up in her eyes. What? Who would? Her thoughts spiraled, fear and grief blending into confusion. The man continued, his tone calm but urgent. We're part of a private investigation team. Levi Matthews requested that we keep an eye on anything unusual connected to you after Sierra's death. He felt something wasn't right. Jasmine's mouth went dry. Levi had been watching? He hadn't just arranged the funeral. He had been silently protecting her, monitoring the threat she hadn't fully understood yet. The relief was immense, but it was also terrifying. What does this mean? She whispered. It means, he replied, that the people who've been following you are not ordinary observers. They may be connected to the circumstances surrounding Sierra's death. Levi suspected as much, and now we need to be careful. Everything today, this funeral, must proceed cautiously. Her mind reeled. Sierra's accident had been presented as a simple, tragic event. But now, in the soft morning light of the cemetery, Jasmine realized that the world she thought she understood was far more complex and dangerous than she had imagined. The ceremony resumed, but Jasmine's thoughts were elsewhere. She tried to focus on Sierra, on the laughter and love that had filled her sister's short life, but the images of surveillance photos lingered, like shadows stretching across the sunlit cemetery. Vanessa noticed Jasmine's distraction. "Are you all right?" she asked softly. Jasmine nodded, brushing away tears. I didn't know it was like this." Before Vanessa could respond, Levi Matthews arrived. He stepped out of a black limousine, tall, composed, and commanding. His gaze found Jasmine immediately, and for the first time she saw a different side of him. Intense, protective, almost imposing in a way that sent a shiver down her spine. He approached, lowering his voice to a soft but firm tone. "Jasmine, I'm here. You don't have to face anything alone." Tears spilled down her cheeks, but this time they were mingled with gratitude. Levi's presence, combined with the unexpected revelations, made her feel both safe and more aware of the dangers that surrounded them. The ceremony continued, with music, readings, and heartfelt speeches. Yet, Jasmine couldn't shake the feeling that this day, meant to honor Sierra, had become a turning point, one that would pull her deeper into a mystery she wasn't ready to face. Sierra's funeral began as a farewell, but the surveillance photos and Levi's intervention revealed that her death might not have been an accident, and that someone was watching, waiting for a moment to strike. The cemetery was quiet after the funeral, the last mourners having left, leaving Jasmine alone with the soft hum of nature around her. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, falling in patterns over the fresh mound of earth where Sierra lay. The grief still gripped her chest, but a new emotion had begun to bloom, unease. Vanessa Turner stayed close, guiding Jasmine to a small bench a few feet away from the gravesite. "Take your time," she said softly. "We'll handle the rest. You've done everything for Sierra that you could." Jasmine nodded, brushing her fingers over the sunflowers laid on the casket. But her mind wasn't on the flowers or the ceremony. It was on the folder of photographs the mysterious investigator had shown her earlier, the dark sedan, the surveillance images, the shadows that had lurked around her apartment. Levi Matthews had mentioned the possibility of danger, and now, as the world around her seemed calm, she felt the weight of the truth pressing in. Her phone buzzed, breaking her thoughts. It was a message from Levi. "Meet me at my office. There's something you need to see." "No." Jasmine's stomach nodded. She had expected this day to be the end of the nightmare, a closure for Sierra's death, but Levi's urgent message suggested it was only the beginning. By late afternoon, Jasmine found herself in the lobby of Levi Matthews' New York office. The towering skyscrapers outside gleamed in the fading sunlight, reflecting the power and influence of the man she had come to trust. Levi's assistant, Vanessa, ushered her into a private conference room. Levi was already there, seated behind a sleek glass desk, his hands folded, eyes focused. He didn't smile, not yet. The air in the room was tense, heavy with anticipation. Jasmine, he began, his voice calm but edged with urgency, I've gone through the surveillance footage and the reports from my investigation team. I need you to see something. He pressed a button on the console and a screen lit up on the wall. Grainy footage appeared, footage Jasmine had never seen before. It was from a traffic camera near her apartment, days before Sierra's accident. Her heart skipped a beat. On the screen, a figure, partially obscured by a hood, was approaching her apartment building, carrying what appeared to be a small device. The camera angle was poor, but the intent was clear. The figure lingered, watching the entrance before disappearing into the shadows. Jasmine's hands trembled. Who is that? Do you know? Levi shook his head. Not yet. But this isn't random. Someone has been following you, and they may have been connected to the accident. This changes everything. She felt a surge of panic. The accident? It wasn't just an accident? Her voice quivered. Levi's expression hardened. We can't say for sure yet, but all signs point to interference. Someone wanted to be there. Someone watched, waited, and acted. The question now is, why? As he spoke, another folder slid across the desk toward Jasmine. Inside were documents showing phone records, unusual transactions, and even a few social media accounts linked to the same vehicle that had been spotted near her apartment. Every detail pointed to a hidden network of people who had kept tabs on her, her sister, and the days leading up to the accident. Jasmine's head spun. The grief she had been carrying for Sierra was now intertwined with fear, suspicion, and confusion. Her safe world had dissolved into a web of shadows, secrets, and unseen dangers. She turned to Levi. But why? Why would anyone? Levi leaned forward, his eyes locking with hers. That's what we're going to find out. And Jasmine, I need you to trust me completely. You can't tell anyone else about this, especially not the police yet. If the wrong people know you're cooperating with us, it could put you in more danger. Jasmine swallowed hard, the gravity of the situation pressing on her chest. Trusting Levi had already been a leap, but now the stakes were higher than ever. One wrong move and the truth about Sierra's death, and the people behind it, could put her life at risk. She nodded, steeling herself. I trust you. Just tell me what I need to do. Levi's eyes softened slightly, though the intensity never left his gaze. First, we need to identify the people involved. Then we need to understand their motive. We know they followed you. We know they were near Sierra. But we don't know who or why. That's where the challenge begins. For a moment, the weight of everything, grief, fear, confusion, and the responsibility of uncovering the truth, pressed heavily on Jasmine. She had expected closure today. Instead, she was stepping into a deeper, darker mystery, one that threatened to engulf her entirely. Yet somewhere in the turmoil, a spark of determination ignited. Sierra had been taken from her too soon. She owed it to her sister to uncover the truth, no matter how dangerous it might be. Levi's voice broke through her thoughts. There's one more thing, he said, pressing another button. The screen shifted to a series of close-up images. The hooded figure's hands, the small device, and an envelope left near her apartment that no one had noticed before. Inside were documents, personal papers that, Levi explained, hinted at a connection to Sierra's family, a hidden secret no one had expected. Jasmine's stomach turned. She felt as though the world had tilted beneath her. Her grief had led her to this moment, but the mystery surrounding Sierra's death was now a labyrinth she couldn't yet navigate. Sierra's death, once thought to be a simple accident, was now intertwined with secrets, surveillance, and unknown enemies. Jasmine realized that uncovering the truth might reveal more than she, or Levi, was ready to face. And someone out there knew that she had begun asking questions. The elevator doors closed behind Jasmine with a soft hiss, sealing her inside with her thoughts as it carried her from Levi's office down to the ground floor. The dim hum of the machinery echoed the tension she felt rising in her chest. Everything she had learned in the last hour churned through her mind. The surveillance photos, the hidden figure, the documents pointing toward Sierra's death being far from accidental. Her grief was still raw, but now fear threaded through it, drawing everything tighter. When the elevator reached the lobby, Vanessa Turner was waiting. She guided Jasmine toward a quiet corner, away from the flow of people passing through. Levi wants you to go home and stay with someone you trust, Vanessa said gently. He has a plan, but before we put it into motion, he needs to be certain you're secure. Jasmine frowned. Why does it feel like I'm suddenly a target? Vanessa's expression tightened. Because there's a chance you are. Whoever watched you didn't just do it for curiosity. It was deliberate. Jasmine's pulse quickened. It wasn't long ago when she felt alone in her grief, wishing the world would slow down. Now she wished the world would stop long enough for her to breathe. Vanessa escorted her to a waiting private car. He'll call you later tonight, she said. But don't be startled if things begin moving fast. Levi doesn't like danger lingering anywhere near people he cares about. Jasmine stepped into the car, unsettled by the last part of Vanessa's sentence. People he cares about. She barely knew Levi, yet he had dropped everything to help her bury her sister and was now pushing resources toward uncovering a truth she hadn't been prepared to face. It was more attention than she'd received from people she had known for years. The driver took her home, and Jasmine spent the next hour sitting by her kitchen window, staring out at the quiet street. Every sound made her jump. The hum of passing cars, the bark of a dog down the block, even the wind brushing against her window sent chills up her spine. She found herself checking the blinds repeatedly. Her phone buzzed. Levi. Jasmine, he said as soon as she answered, I need you to pack a few things. A driver will pick you up in 2 hours. You won't be staying at your apartment tonight. Her breath caught. What? What happened? I'll explain when you get here, he replied. His tone was firm but controlled, the kind of calm that hid the storm beneath it. You're not safe there anymore. Levi, safe from what? I don't want to waste a second. Do as I say and I'll fill you in once you arrive. Before she could protest, the call ended. A knot tightened in her stomach. She didn't know whether to feel protected or terrified. She packed quickly, some clothes, toiletries, and the small silver locket Sierra had given her months before. As she zipped her bag, her eyes drifted to the front door, half expecting it to burst open. 2 hours later, another private car pulled up outside her building. The same man who had shown her the folder at the funeral stepped out. Jasmine, he said with a nod. Let's go. His voice was steady, but something about his posture was different. More alert, more cautious. Like they were being watched. When she arrived at Levi's estate, night had already fallen. The property looked even larger under the moonlight, with lights lining the driveway and security stationed discreetly behind the tall iron gates. It didn't feel like a home, it felt like a fortress. Jasmine's nerves tingled. Levi met her at the door, dressed in dark clothes, sleeves rolled up as though he'd been working nonstop. Come in, he told her, his tone clipped with urgency. She followed him into a study where maps, documents, and photos were spread across a long table. Everything was arranged meticulously, lines drawn between certain faces, times circled, and notes scribbled in neat handwriting. The room felt like the center of a covert operation. What is all this? She asked. Levi clasped his hands behind his back. My team dug deeper into the footage. That man who appeared near your building, he wasn't alone. He had a handler. Someone giving orders from a distance. Jasmine felt her stomach clench. A handler? Levi nodded. They work in pairs. One does the tracking. The other gives instructions. We've seen the pattern before. Before? Jasmine stepped closer. What does that mean? Levi exhaled slowly as though choosing his words carefully. Years ago, my company exposed a scheme involving illegal debts tied to real estate acquisitions. The people behind it weren't pleased. I've had eyes on me ever since. Nothing serious. Just shadows that lingered too long. Her breath hitched. Are you saying Sierra's accident was connected to you? That's one possibility. Levi paused. But there's something else you need to see. He motioned her toward a large screen and tapped a key. More footage appeared. This time the angle was clearer. The hooded figure from earlier was speaking with someone in a dark SUV. The second person never stepped out of the vehicle, but the exchange was unmistakable. A hand passed an envelope to the hooded man. Instructions. Jasmine's skin prickled. Why would they be near my building? I don't have anything to do with your company. That's what I've been trying to understand, Levi said, turning to her. His expression softened with concern. Jasmine, have you ever seen this man before? Or this vehicle? She glanced at the screen, searching her memory. Nothing. No recognition. Just fear creeping in. No, she whispered. Levi nodded slowly. My team believes Sierra may have crossed paths with someone involved. Maybe unwittingly. Maybe she witnessed something without realizing. Jasmine shook her head, overwhelmed. She was a college student, Levi. She kept to herself. She didn't know anything about. That's what worries me, he interrupted gently. If she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, if she saw something she shouldn't have, it could explain why someone followed you afterward. Jasmine felt her knees weaken. He quickly guided her to a chair. He lowered his voice. I'm not telling you this to frighten you. I'm telling you so you understand why I'm taking every precaution. Jasmine wiped her eyes. What is your plan? Levi stepped back to the table and pointed at a section marked with yellow highlighter. There's a man who runs acquisitions in the southeast region. He handled some of the territory where the earlier corruption surfaced. He disappeared 2 months ago. Disappeared? Yes. And his name surfaced in the background search we ran after Sierra's accident. The room seemed to tilt. Jasmine swallowed hard. Are you saying this man could be behind what happened to Sierra? I'm saying he's connected somehow, Levi replied. Maybe indirectly, but connected. And I need to find out how deep this goes. That's why you're staying here. It's safest. Jasmine stared at the screen, her heart breaking and racing at the same time. Sierra, caught in something she could never have understood. A web of danger she didn't even know she stepped into. What do we do next? She whispered. Levi took a breath. Tomorrow morning, I'm meeting with someone who might be able to identify the handler in the SUV. Someone who used to work inside that circle. Jasmine looked up, startled. Someone who used to work with them? Levi nodded grimly. And Jasmine, I need you to be prepared. Because once we meet him, everything about Sierra's death may change. Her chest tightened. Change how? Levi looked at her for a long moment, his eyes steady, serious, almost somber. Because if I'm right, he said quietly, then the person responsible for Sierra's death wasn't coming after me. Jasmine's breath froze. Levi stepped back, his jaw tense. They were coming after you. Jasmine barely slept that night. Even inside Levi's heavily secured estate, protected by iron gates, motion lights, and guards who moved like shadows, her body refused to relax. Every creak in the hallway, every whisper of wind against the window, jolted her awake again. She kept replaying Levi's final words from the night before. They weren't coming after me. They were coming after you. The idea gnawed at her. Why her? She was nobody. She worked at a cafe, struggled to pay rent, scraped through life one shift at a time. No enemies. No secrets. No connection to billionaires or criminal networks. At least that's what she had always believed. A soft knock startled her. She sat up quickly, clutching the blanket. Jasmine? Levi's voice floated through the door. It's time. She opened the door to find him dressed in a dark jacket, his face serious, his expression sharper than she'd ever seen it. The contact is waiting. We need to leave now. Jasmine grabbed her coat and followed him through the silent halls and out into the morning cold. A black SUV waited at the foot of the steps, engine running. Levi opened the passenger door for her and motioned her inside before taking the seat beside her. You mentioned someone who worked with them, Jasmine said as the SUV rolled through the gates. Who is he exactly? His name is Adrian Holt, Levi replied. He was part of a network that handled acquisitions, debt collection, and cleanup operations. Cleanup? Jasmine repeated, confused. Levi hesitated. They used it to describe situations where someone knew too much. People who asked questions, or saw something they weren't supposed to. Jasmine's stomach twisted. She turned her gaze out the window, watching Atlanta's skyline blur by. She didn't want to imagine Sierra caught in something sinister. Her sister wasn't involved in anything dangerous. She was a college student, bright, kind, focused on her nursing program. So how could she have crossed paths with a network like that? After 30 minutes, the SUV pulled into an empty warehouse district on the outskirts of the city. The building they approached looked abandoned. Broken windows, faded paint, rust creeping down the metal siding. But as soon as they stepped inside, Jasmine realized the appearance was deliberate. There were cameras in the corners. A generator hummed beneath the floorboards. A small room in the back was lit, its door slightly cracked. A man sat inside at a folding table. He looked older than Jasmine expected, late 40s, maybe early 50s, with tired eyes and a once white dress shirt now faded to cream. His hands trembled slightly as he lifted a cup of coffee. "Adrian," Levi greeted him calmly. Adrian nodded, glancing nervously at Jasmine. "So, she's the one?" "She is," Levi confirmed. Adrian swallowed hard. "All right. Then I'll tell you everything." Jasmine's pulse quickened. She sank into the seat across from him. "What do you know about my sister?" she asked, her voice thin. Adrian leaned back, rubbing his face as if the weight of what he was about to say aged him years. "I wasn't involved directly, not with her case," he said. "But when I left the network 2 months ago, I took some files. I didn't trust what they were doing. Too many accidents. Too many unexplained disappearances." Levi folded his arms. "Tell her what you found." Adrian opened a battered folder. Inside were printed screenshots, maps, and handwritten notes. He tapped one page showing a gas station camera still. "This," he said, "was taken 2 days before your sister died." Jasmine leaned closer, and her heart nearly stopped. There was Sierra, standing at the gas station counter talking to the cashier. She looked normal, tired maybe, but nothing unusual. But behind her, a man stood near the snack aisle, pretending to browse. His cap was pulled low, his jacket zipped up. Jasmine gasped softly. "Is that the same person from outside my apartment?" Adrian nodded slowly. "Yes. Same man. Same posture. Same build. Same pattern." Her head began to spin. "She didn't know him," Jasmine said. "Sierra didn't talk to strangers. She would have told me." Adrian sighed. "Your sister wasn't his target. You were." Jasmine stared at him, stunned. "Me? Why?" Adrian picked up another page. This one was a photocopy of a document. Something official looking, stamped with a company name Jasmine didn't recognize. "This," Adrian explained, "is tied to a debt taken out years ago, in your mother's name." Jasmine froze. "My mom? She passed away. And she never took out debts like this." "That's what they counted on," Adrian said. "The network often looks for people with clean identities, people who've lost relatives, people whose financial records are quiet. Your family name was used without your knowledge." Levi stepped closer to Jasmine. "Someone used your mother's identity to secure money illegally. And when repayment didn't happen, the network sent people to collect. Not money, but silence." Silence. The word hit Jasmine like a blow. "So, they thought I knew about it?" Adrian nodded. "They assumed either you knew, or that your sister did. They followed both of you. But Sierra was the one who noticed them first." Jasmine's chest tightened painfully. "What do you mean?" Adrian slid forward another page, a note, handwritten in Sierra's familiar cursive. "Someone's been outside the cafe twice this week. Maybe I'm imagining things. I'll tell Jasmine if it happens again." Jasmine covered her mouth, tears burning her eyes. She never saw that note. Sierra must have written it days before the accident, and never got the chance to show her. "She saw them?" Jasmine whispered, voice cracking. Adrian nodded. "And that made her a liability." Jasmine felt her entire world crumble. Guilt crushed her like a weight. Sierra hadn't been involved in anything dangerous. She had just noticed something she wasn't supposed to. Something connected to Jasmine without her realizing it. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't fate. It was a chain reaction that started long before they ever knew. Levi placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Jasmine, none of this is your fault." But she barely heard him. Her sister had died because someone targeted her, because someone wanted her quiet, because a ghost from her past, an identity theft she never even knew about, had put a target on her back. Jasmine wiped her tears. So the man in the SUV, the handler, what does he want now? If they got what they wanted, Sierra, why are they still following me? Adrian hesitated. Levi narrowed his eyes. Adrian, tell her. Adrian looked down, guilt heavy in his expression. Because they think Sierra told you something, he said quietly. And until they know what that is, they won't stop. Jasmine felt cold down to her bones. And, Adrian added, his voice lowering to a whisper, the handler? He's not finished. He's planning something else. Something meant for you. Levi stiffened beside her. What plan? Adrian looked at him, fear flickering in his eyes. He's calling it the final visit. Jasmine's heart pounded as Adrian continued, and he scheduled it for tonight. The night was unusually still, almost eerily quiet as Jasmine sat in Levi Matthews' study, staring at the surveillance monitors arrayed across the wall. The soft hum of the security system filled the room, a constant reminder of the invisible fortress surrounding her. Yet even in this cocoon of safety, the sense of impending danger clawed at her nerves. Levi sat across from her, reviewing the images of the last known movements of the handler. Every frame had been analyzed multiple times, but tonight felt different. The tension in the room was thick, as if the air itself had grown heavy with anticipation. Tonight, Levi said quietly, breaking the silence, the final visit begins. The handler has been in the city all week, watching, waiting. He knows something, maybe more than we think. Jasmine swallowed hard, her hands shaking as she clutched the blanket she had brought from her apartment. Her mind raced. She had spent the last days immersed in grief, surveillance photos, and secret meetings, but nothing could have prepared her for this moment. Levi, why me? She whispered. Why would they even, why now? Levi's expression softened slightly, though the intensity never left his gaze. Because, Jasmine, you unknowingly hold the key to something Sierra discovered. That's why the network never stopped watching. And that's why they'll come for you tonight if we don't act first. The study door clicked softly and Vanessa Turner stepped in, her face pale but determined. Security's been reinforced. Cameras, motion sensors, everything. We're ready. Jasmine nodded, though her throat felt tight, almost paralyzed. She was terrified. But she also knew she couldn't run. She had to face this. For Sierra. For herself. Hours passed, the tension building like a storm waiting to break. Every passing second amplified Jasmine's heartbeat. Then, around midnight, a faint alert sounded on the security panel. A camera near the driveway picked up movement. Levi immediately moved to the monitor. He's here. Jasmine's stomach twisted. She hadn't expected it to feel so real, so close. The screen showed the dark figure, slim, hooded, moving with deliberate, calculated steps. The handler had arrived. Levi turned to her. Stay calm. Follow my instructions exactly. This is a controlled situation. Jasmine nodded, though fear threatened to consume her. She had always imagined danger as something distant, something in movies or newspapers. But tonight, it was here, real and tangible, inching closer with each step. The handler reached the gates of the estate, his movements measured. Levi's team had locked the main entrances, but the perimeter cameras continued to track him, following his every move. Jasmine tried to steady her breath. What does he want? Levi shook his head. He's testing us. He wants to see if you're alone. If the house is vulnerable. He may attempt entry, but he won't succeed, if we act correctly. The handler circled the driveway, crouched slightly, as if studying every inch of the property. A chill ran down Jasmine's spine. She could see his reflection in the large glass doors leading to the study. His face remained obscured, but the sense of intent radiated from him, a dark energy that made the hairs on her arms stand on end. Levi's voice was steady, controlled. "Jasmine, get to the panic room. Now." Jasmine obeyed instantly, running through the hallway she had memorized over the last few days. Vanessa guided her to a hidden door behind a bookshelf, a small, reinforced room with communications equipment, food, and first aid supplies. "Stay in here," Levi instructed. "Do not open the door for anyone. Do not speak. Just stay hidden." Her heart pounded violently as the door clicked shut behind her. The darkness in the panic room was thick, almost suffocating. She hugged her knees, trying to steady her breathing, every sound amplified in the silence. From inside the room, she could hear the faint sound of footsteps echoing through the estate. The handler was inside the perimeter. She pressed her hands over her ears, forcing herself not to scream. Through the small camera feed inside the panic room, Jasmine saw Levi and his team confront the intruder in the main hall. The handler moved quickly, attempting to access the building through the side doors. The tension on the monitors was palpable. Suddenly, the handler froze, reaching into his coat. Jasmine's stomach dropped. "What does he have?" Levi moved with precision, signaling his team to converge. The handler's movements became frantic, almost desperate. Jasmine could see the glint of metal, a weapon. Her breath caught in her throat. "This is it. This is real." Then, unexpectedly, the handler froze again. He raised his hands and something fell from his coat, a small envelope, landing on the marble floor with a soft thud. Levi's team surrounded him, securing the weapon. The handler's hood slipped slightly, revealing his face, young, tense, yet not hardened. There was fear in his eyes, almost regret. Jasmine could barely breathe. She had expected a monstrous figure, someone unfeeling. But this man, he looked human, vulnerable, terrified. Levi picked up the envelope, examining its contents. Jasmine could see it on the monitor. Inside were papers, photographs, and a single note in neat handwriting. "She doesn't know. She's innocent. Handle with care." Levi's jaw tightened. They've been careful, but careless at the same time. This confirms it. Someone higher up is orchestrating everything. And now we have our first real lead. Jasmine pressed her hands to her mouth, barely able to process the revelation. The man in front of Levi had been a pawn, not the mastermind. Her sister's death, the surveillance, the threats, it was all part of a plan far bigger than she imagined. Levi turned toward the monitor, his voice low but urgent. "Jasmine, listen. You're safe for now, but we have to move fast. This envelope contains proof, but it also confirms that someone who knows about Sierra's death is still active and watching. We can't delay." Jasmine's mind raced, fear and determination colliding. She had survived the first encounter, but the real danger was far from over. As the handler was secured, Levi opened another folder inside the envelope, and Jasmine's heart froze. Inside was a photo of someone she knew, someone she never suspected could be involved in Sierra's death. And now they were coming for her next. The early morning sun cast long shadows across Levi Matthews' estate, the soft glow giving a deceptive sense of calm. Jasmine Carter had spent the night in the panic room, replaying the events of the previous evening over and over in her mind. Her hands were still trembling, even after Levi assured her that the handler had been secured and that she was safe, for now. Yet, deep down, Jasmine knew the danger hadn't passed. The envelope, the note, the photographs, it was all part of a puzzle that was far from complete. And now, someone she knew, someone she trusted, could be involved in this nightmare. Levi entered the study where Jasmine had been waiting, holding a folder in his hands. His expression was serious, almost grim. "We need to act fast," he said, placing the folder on the table. "The envelope confirms that there's someone else in this network, someone who's closer than we realized." Jasmine's pulse quickened. "Closer? You mean, someone I know?" Levi nodded. "Yes. And you're going to meet them today." Her stomach twisted. After everything, the surveillance, the threats, the death of Sierra, she didn't know if she could handle another shock. Levi motioned for Vanessa to prepare the car. "We're going to a secure location. It's someone who left the network a long time ago, someone who has information but also the means to protect themselves. And you. Jasmine followed Levi out, her heart pounding. The streets outside were eerily quiet, the city just waking up. As they drove, she glanced at the folder resting on her lap. It contained photographs of a woman in her late 20s, her face familiar yet distant. Jasmine's brow furrowed as she examined the images. "Who is this?" Jasmine asked. "That's Mia Collins," Levi replied. "She was an operative in the network years ago. She left after a falling out with the leadership, but she still knows everything about their operations, their methods, and their targets." Jasmine's eyes widened. "Mia? I don't know her. How can she help me?" "She can identify the handler, the mastermind, and anyone connected to your sister's death," Levi explained. "She's cautious, but she's willing to assist, if we convince her you're in danger." The car pulled up to a small, unassuming cafe in downtown Atlanta. From the outside, it looked ordinary, an ideal place to meet someone without drawing attention. Levi led Jasmine inside, and they were shown to a private back room where a woman waited. Mia Collins looked exactly as Jasmine had seen in the photographs, strong, composed, but with a wary edge. Her eyes scanned Jasmine, assessing, calculating. "You're the one everyone's been watching," Mia said finally, her voice calm but laced with sharpness. "I've heard about your sister. I'm sorry." Jasmine felt a lump form in her throat. "Thank you. But I don't understand why you're helping me." Mia leaned back, studying her carefully. "Because the people after you, they're dangerous. And because what happened to Sierra? That was a mistake. She shouldn't have died. And now you're in the crosshairs. If I don't intervene, there's no telling what will happen next." Jasmine swallowed, her hands trembling. "How do you know so much?" Mia opened a laptop, pulling up a series of encrypted files and communications. "I left the network, but I kept records. I've been tracking them quietly, trying to protect people they might target next. You and Sierra were on their list because of a debt tied to your mother's identity, used without your knowledge." Jasmine's heart sank. "So, all of this, it was because of something my mother never even knew about?" "Yes," Mia said firmly. "And now they want answers. That's why the handler was sent. And that's why you need protection." Levi interjected. "We need her help not just to understand the network but to predict their next move. The handler's appearance last night confirmed one thing. Someone higher up is still orchestrating everything. We can't wait for them to strike again." Jasmine's mind raced. She was exhausted, terrified, and overwhelmed, but a spark of hope flickered. Mia knew the network inside and out. If anyone could help her find the truth and protect her, it was Mia. Mia stood and closed the laptop. "There's one more thing you need to know," she said. Her eyes were sharp, serious. "The handler isn't acting alone. He answers to someone higher up, someone who has the power to orchestrate everything without leaving a trace." Jasmine swallowed hard. "And, do you know who that is?" Mia shook her head. "Not yet. But I can get close. I can infiltrate their communications, trace the orders, and figure out who gave the command. But it's dangerous. Extremely dangerous. One wrong move and we all pay the price." Jasmine's hands clenched. "I don't care. I just want the truth. I want to know why my sister, why this all happened." Mia studied her for a long moment. "It's not going to be easy. And it's not just the network you have to worry about. They have allies everywhere, people who think they're untouchable. You're going to need to trust me, trust Levi, and trust yourself. And most of all," Mia paused, leaning closer, "you're going to have to stay one step ahead." Jasmine nodded, swallowing her fear. She was ready, or at least as ready as she could be. Sierra had died. She couldn't let her sister's life or death be in vain. Levi broke the tension, his tone sharp and commanding. "We move tonight. Mia, you're going to help us identify the mastermind. Jasmine, you stay close to us. No mistakes. No exceptions." Jasmine took a deep breath, steeling herself. The road ahead was uncertain, treacherous, and full of danger, but she wasn't alone anymore. She had Levi, Mia, and a fragile plan to uncover the truth. As the three of them left the cafe and headed to a secure safe house, Jasmine felt a chill run down her spine. She knew this was just the beginning. The network was larger than she had imagined, the mastermind still unknown, and the stakes higher than ever. As they entered the safe house, Mia glanced at Jasmine with a sharp expression. One of their own is already inside the city. And I have reason to believe they're closer than you think. The night had grown heavy over Atlanta, thick with tension and the hum of distant traffic. Jasmine Carter sat quietly in the safe house, her fingers drumming nervously on her knees. The once comforting walls of Levi Matthews' estate now felt like a cage, a fragile sanctuary that could be breached at any moment. Every shadow seemed to whisper danger, every sudden sound a possible threat. Mia Collins sat across from her, laptop open, fingers moving with surgical precision. Lines of encrypted communication scrolled across the screen, a digital trail left behind by the network they were up against. Jasmine watched her, feeling both awe and unease. Mia had left that dangerous world behind years ago, but tonight she was diving back in, risking everything to uncover the truth. Levi entered the room silently, holding a small folder in his hands. His eyes were dark, unreadable, filled with the same intensity Jasmine had grown used to, but now it carried something more: worry. They've made their first move, Levi said, voice low. They know we're onto them and they're retaliating. Jasmine froze. Retaliating? Oh, against me? Levi handed her the folder. Inside were photographs and surveillance footage. Jasmine's stomach sank as she saw images of the safe house, from just 2 hours ago. Shadows lurking near the perimeter, a dark sedan parked across the street, headlights off. Someone had been watching them. They've been following us, Levi said. The handler wasn't acting alone. This is part of a larger plan. They're testing our defenses, seeing how prepared we are. Mia's fingers flew across her keyboard, decrypting intercepted messages from the network's operatives. They've communicated about tonight, she said, her voice sharp. They're planning something big. I can't read the entire chain yet, but they're coordinating. Whoever is orchestrating this wants to send a clear message: you're not safe. Jasmine's heart pounded. Every scenario she had imagined in the last few days had been terrifying, but this, the idea that her life was still in immediate danger, was suffocating. She looked at Levi. What do? We fight back, Levi said firmly. We anticipate their moves. We take control. You're not a victim in this. Not tonight. The minutes ticked by like hours. Outside, the city slept, oblivious to the danger creeping toward the safe house. Jasmine's anxiety escalated with every passing second. Her eyes darted to every corner, every shadow. Her mind was a whirlwind of fear, grief, and determination. She refused to let Sierra's death be in vain. Then the first sound shattered the tense silence. A soft click, followed by a faint creak at the rear entrance. Jasmine stiffened. Her heart raced. They're here, Levi whispered. He moved with precision, signaling Mia and Jasmine to stay calm. Don't make a sound. The front door to the safe house rattled slightly. Jasmine could feel the vibrations through the floorboards. Her hands shook, but she forced herself to stay silent, pressed against the wall. Mia's fingers worked quickly on her laptop, remotely locking doors and activating additional security protocols. They're trying to disable the alarms, she muttered. I need a few more seconds. The sound of movement grew louder, deliberate, calculated. The intruders were professionals, quiet, methodical, and patient. Jasmine's pulse thundered in her ears. She could hear her own ragged breathing, could feel every beat of her heart like a drum announcing her presence to anyone who might be listening. Then, without warning, the front window exploded inward. Shards of glass sprayed across the room, glittering in the dim light like deadly confetti. Jasmine screamed, ducking instinctively, her blanket tangling around her legs. Levi was already moving, tackling the first intruder before they could enter fully. The struggle was quick but intense. Jasmine could hear grunts, the shuffle of feet, and the sound of a weapon clattering to the floor. Mia was furiously typing commands, securing additional doors, and monitoring the network's communications in real time. Another figure lunged toward the back of the house. Levi intercepted him, pushing him into a wall. Jasmine could see the intruder's hooded face, a young man, tense, eyes wild with panic and frustration. He struggled, but Levi's strength and precision overpowered him. The chaos was overwhelming. Jasmine could barely think, barely breathe, her mind spinning as the threat became immediate, visceral. She had never experienced anything like this. Every instinct screamed to run, hide, escape, but Levi and Mia were holding the line, keeping the danger contained. Finally, the last intruder fell to the floor, restrained by Levi and his team, who had now entered the safe house from hidden exits. The room fell silent except for the ragged breathing of Jasmine, the thrum of her racing heart, and the hum of the security system. Levi moved toward Jasmine, crouching slightly so he could meet her eyes. "You're okay," he said, voice firm but calm. "They didn't get to you." Jasmine's knees gave way and she sank to the floor, trembling. Relief, terror, and exhaustion collided in a storm of emotions. I thought they were going to." "You're safe," Levi repeated. "But this was just a warning. They're not finished. Whoever is behind the network knows we're onto them. And they're escalating." Mia stepped closer, her expression grave. "The envelope from last night? It was only a message. They're testing us. And now we know they have operatives inside the city, people who can move quickly, silently, and with lethal intent." Jasmine pressed her face into her hands, trying to steady herself. She had survived the first real attack, but the reality of what Mia had said was terrifying. The network was larger, more organized, and far more dangerous than she could have imagined. Levi knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You're not alone in this, Jasmine. Not now, not ever. We're going to fight back, find the mastermind, and make sure Sierra's death, and your life, means something. But we need to stay alert. Every second counts." Jasmine lifted her head, tears glistening in her eyes. "I don't know if I can do this. I'm not like you." Levi's gaze was unwavering. "You are stronger than you think. You've already faced grief, fear, and loss, and you're still standing. That's strength, Jasmine. And tonight, we prove that they can't touch you no matter what." Mia added, her voice low but firm, "But understand this, the network is clever. They watch, they wait, and they strike when you least expect it. Tonight was just the beginning. And if we're not careful, the next strike could be worse." Jasmine's hands clenched into fists. Despite the terror, determination began to burn in her chest. She had lost Sierra, but she would not lose herself. She would uncover the truth, expose the network, and survive this. Just as Levi began planning their next move, a silent alert flashed across Mia's laptop. A new message from the network, coded, immediate, and chilling. "You protected her once. Next time, you fail." The dawn had barely broken over Atlanta, but sleep had been an impossible luxury for Jasmine Carter. Every creak of the safe house, every distant horn or passing car, made her flinch. The night's attack had left her rattled, but the note on Mia's laptop, "You protected her once. Next time, you fail," had driven home the terrifying reality. The network was far from finished. Levi Matthews had remained calm, meticulously planning their next steps. His usual composed demeanor was tempered with caution, knowing that the smallest oversight could cost them dearly. Jasmine watched him move around the safe house, checking doors, reviewing security footage, and communicating with his team over encrypted channels. He had the precision of someone who had lived with danger all his life. Mia Collins, on the other hand, hunched over her laptop, analyzing data with focused intensity. Every intercepted message, every trace of communication, painted a clearer picture of the network's reach. They were organized, patient, and relentless, exactly the kind of adversaries Jasmine had never imagined confronting. Levi turned to Jasmine, his eyes sharp but steady. "We have to move locations today. They know the safe house. They've already tried testing our defenses. If we stay, we risk another attack. And next time, it might not be just a warning." Jasmine nodded, though fear twisted in her chest. Moving meant exposing themselves to new risks, unknown paths, and unpredictable dangers. But she trusted Levi. She had no choice. By mid-morning they were ready. Jasmine had packed a small bag, essentials only, and checked it twice. Mia had secured backup devices and encrypted files. Levi had coordinated a new route, one that would avoid any predictable patterns and minimize exposure. The streets were busy, bustling with the morning commute. The city felt alive and oblivious, but Jasmine knew better now. Danger was hidden in plain sight. Every pedestrian, every car, every shadow could conceal a threat. They drove in a black SUV, the windows tinted, security scanners active. Jasmine kept her eyes on the passing streets, scanning for anything unusual. Her heartbeat was loud in her chest, every bump in the road echoing through her nerves. "We're changing safe houses," Levi explained quietly. "It's closer to a trusted ally. Someone who's neutral, unconnected to us publicly, but who has resources to keep you hidden while we continue investigating." Jasmine swallowed hard. "How do we know they're safe?" Levi's jaw tightened. "We don't. That's the risk. But staying here isn't an option either. You need to understand, Jasmine, every second you stay predictable, they can find you." She pressed her hands to her lap, silent, tense. The reality of her vulnerability was overwhelming. As the SUV wound through quieter streets, Mia's laptop buzzed. "We've got movement," she whispered. Multiple cars following at a distance. Same make and model, all black sedans. Jasmine's stomach plummeted. They're tailing us?" Levi's expression hardened. "Yes, and they're coordinated. They've learned from last night. This is a close call. We need to be careful." The convoy continued, serpentine through side streets and alleyways. Levi's driving was deliberate, precise, an exercise in control against chaos. But the tension was palpable. Jasmine could feel it coiling in her chest, an icy thread of fear. Suddenly, a car ahead slammed on the brakes. Levi swerved, tires screeching. The trailing sedans reacted instantly, forcing their way closer. Jasmine gripped the edge of her seat, her knuckles white. "They're trying to force us off the road," Mia shouted. Her fingers flew across the laptop, attempting to jam any GPS tracking signals. Levi's eyes were cold and focused. "Stay down," he ordered. "We can't risk an accident. Keep your head low and don't move until I say so." The SUV took a sharp turn, narrowly missing a parked delivery truck. Jasmine's heart raced, she could feel herself shaking uncontrollably. The sedans followed relentlessly, their coordination terrifyingly precise. Then, without warning, one of the pursuers attempted to ram them from behind. The SUV jolted violently, glass rattling, metal groaning. Jasmine's breath caught in her throat. Levi maneuvered with surgical precision, accelerating, weaving through side streets, creating distance. The SUV skidded around a corner, barely avoiding a collision with a lamppost. Mia's eyes widened. "They're getting desperate. They're escalating." "Yes," Levi said, voice low but steady. "They've realized we're serious. This isn't just reconnaissance anymore. It's an attack. A direct threat." Jasmine's hands shook and she pressed them to her face, feeling terror and helplessness wash over her. This was the first time she realized they wouldn't stop until they achieved their goal. Sierra's death was just one part of a larger plan, and now Jasmine herself was in the crosshairs. The SUV finally reached a narrow alley where Levi had planned a temporary hold. He cut the engine and signaled the team to wait. They were hidden from view, concealed by buildings and the shadows of the morning. Jasmine leaned back against the seat, trying to calm her racing heart. Why are they doing this?" she whispered. "I don't even know what they want from me." Mia shut the laptop with a sharp snap. "It's not about you personally. It's about leverage, about control, about silencing anyone connected to their operations. You and Sierra were just inconvenient variables." Levi placed a hand gently on Jasmine's shoulder. "And that's why we need to stay alert. They won't stop, Jasmine. But neither will we. We'll find the mastermind. We'll uncover the truth. And we'll make sure Sierra's death is not in vain." Jasmine took a shaky breath. She was terrified, but determination flared within her. Fear might have ruled her before, but now she had a plan, allies, and a reason to fight. She would not run. She would face whatever came next. Mia's laptop buzzed again. "They're close," she muttered. Signal triangulation. They're surrounding us. 3 blocks east, 1 block west, and wait. She paused, eyes widening. They've split their forces. Someone's moving directly toward our location. Levi's eyes narrowed. That's our close call. They're testing our reaction, probing for weakness. Jasmine's heart pounded in her chest. She gripped the edge of her seat, bracing for what was coming. She had survived the first attack, the night of terror, and now the network was escalating. A shadow detached itself from the corner of the street, moving quickly toward them, and Jasmine realized with horror that this was not another stranger. It was someone she had seen before, someone she had never suspected would be part of the network. The streets of Atlanta were deceptively quiet, a calm that belied the storm closing in on Jasmine Carter. She sat in Levi Matthews' SUV, the air thick with tension, her heart pounding like a drum. Every nerve in her body screamed danger, and every shadow seemed to carry the silent intent of the network still hunting her. Mia Collins' fingers danced across her laptop, scanning signals, decrypting codes, and tracking the movements of the network operatives surrounding them. Her expression was tense, sharp, every line in her face betraying the urgency of the situation. Levi's jaw was tight as he drove, eyes focused and vigilant. The SUV moved cautiously through alleyways and side streets, trying to avoid the network's prying eyes, but every turn brought new uncertainty. Someone's moving directly toward us, Mia muttered, breaking the tense silence. Her eyes flicked to the map on her laptop. They know exactly where we are. And they're coming fast. Jasmine's stomach sank. Who is it? Mia's face darkened. I need to see them up close to identify. Could be anyone. The vehicle turned sharply, slowing as Levi tried to create distance. But then a figure emerged from the shadows, tall, familiar, moving with an ease that made Jasmine's chest tighten. Her blood ran cold as recognition hit her. It was someone she had trusted, someone who had been quietly part of her life before Sierra's death. Ethan Reynolds, her sister's close friend, someone she had known since childhood. Jasmine froze. Ethan? She whispered, disbelief and horror threading through her voice. Levi's eyes narrowed. Stay calm. Don't engage. We'll handle this. The SUV slowed, positioning itself behind a row of parked cars. Ethan moved cautiously, scanning the street, seemingly unaware of the reinforced vehicle trailing him. His face, once familiar and comforting, now looked cold, distant, calculated. Jasmine's mind raced. Why him? He's family, friends, why would he? Mia's fingers didn't stop moving. I can confirm it. He's been sending encrypted messages to the network for weeks. Tracking your location, reporting movements, even monitoring your sister. He's the insider. Jasmine's chest tightened. My sister, he knew? Levi's hands gripped the steering wheel. He didn't act alone, Jasmine. But he was the one with access. The one who could report on you and Sierra without raising suspicion. This is the betrayal we feared, the one we didn't see coming. The SUV followed Ethan at a cautious distance, keeping him in sight but maintaining a safe buffer. Every instinct told Jasmine that one wrong move could trigger disaster. Mia leaned closer, her voice low. He's likely the reason the handler knew so much. Ethan was feeding information. Everything from the safe house location to Sierra's movements, he's the link. Jasmine pressed her face into her hands, tears streaming. The weight of betrayal was suffocating. The person she had trusted implicitly, the one who had comforted her after Sierra's death, had been complicit in the events that had shattered her life. Levi glanced at her. This isn't about revenge, Jasmine. Not yet. We need him alive. We need to know why. We need the truth. Jasmine nodded, wiping her tears. She wanted answers. She needed them. Sierra's death demanded it. And now Ethan held the key to everything. Ethan turned into a deserted parking lot. The SUV followed cautiously, maintaining distance. Jasmine could feel the tension rising with every second. She didn't understand how someone could hide behind friendship while orchestrating fear and danger. Prepare for confrontation, Levi said, voice calm but firm. We go in strategically. No mistakes. Mia nodded. I've traced his communications. He's alone for now. But he's aware of a potential threat. He's smart. We need to approach carefully. Levi signaled to his team. Within moments they moved into position. Jasmine's heart raced, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The familiar park bench, the empty streetlights, the distant hum of the city, it all felt surreal. Levi stepped out of the SUV first, positioning himself as the lead. Jasmine followed, keeping low, her nerves taut. Ethan was there, seemingly waiting, but his eyes widened as he saw them emerge from the shadows. "Ethan Reynolds," Levi called, voice steady, commanding. "Step away from the vehicle." Hands visible. Ethan's lips pressed into a thin line. "Levi, I didn't expect you," he said, his voice calm, almost too calm. But there was no mistaking the tension in his stance, the hidden readiness for confrontation. "Why?" Jasmine demanded, stepping forward despite Levi's gentle restraint. "Why betray us? Why my sister? Why me?" Ethan's expression hardened, his eyes cold. "You don't understand. I had to do it. I had to protect myself." "Protect yourself?" Jasmine's voice trembled. "By helping kill Sierra? By putting me in danger?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "You think you know everything, Jasmine. You don't. There are forces beyond your comprehension. I did what I had to survive." Levi motioned subtly to his team. "Keep it controlled. We need answers, not a fight." Mia whispered into Jasmine's ear, "He's hiding more than he's admitting. Watch his reactions. We'll get the truth." Jasmine's emotions surged, anger, grief, disbelief, but she forced herself to breathe, to stay focused. Ethan had been a trusted figure, a friend, and now he was the betrayer. But she had to use this. She had to uncover the network's secrets, for Sierra, for herself. Ethan hesitated, his gaze flicking between Levi, Mia, and Jasmine. Then he exhaled, a mix of resignation and fear. "You want the truth?" he asked, voice low. "Fine. But you might not like it." Jasmine's pulse quickened. She nodded. "I need to know. I have to know." Ethan's shoulders sagged slightly, the weight of his own decisions finally catching up. "The mastermind, the one controlling the network, is someone we never suspected. Someone in our circle, someone close. Sierra, she stumbled onto it, and I had to make sure she didn't expose it." Jasmine felt her stomach twist. "Who?" she whispered. Ethan's lips pressed together. I can't say yet. Not here. But you'll know soon. They're watching and they're ready to strike. You protected yourself once, but now, it's time to face them directly." Jasmine's heart pounded as Ethan glanced nervously over his shoulder. Suddenly, a shadow moved behind him, and Jasmine realized with horror that the mastermind had arrived in person, watching them, ready to act. The air was thick with tension, almost suffocating. Jasmine Carter's heart raced, every nerve on edge as she stood in the abandoned warehouse at the edge of Atlanta. The same city that had been a backdrop to her grief, terror, and uncertainty now held the stage for the final confrontation. Levi Matthews moved silently beside her, a fortress of calm, scanning every shadow, every corner, his presence anchoring her despite the storm raging in her chest. Mia Collins was crouched by her laptop, monitoring signals and communications, tracing the network's final movements. All three of them knew the mastermind was here. Ethan Reynolds stood a few feet away, his shoulders tense, eyes flicking nervously around the cavernous space. Once a trusted friend, he had betrayed them, but now, in the crucible of danger, he had no choice but to reveal what he knew. "You've brought us here for a reason," Jasmine said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "Where is he?" Ethan swallowed hard. "He's close. Too close. And he knows we're aware. He's watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike." Jasmine's stomach twisted. Her entire life had been a chain of surprises, grief, and betrayals. But she refused to back down now. Sierra's death, the threats, the attacks, they had to end tonight. Mia's fingers flew across her laptop, scanning multiple encrypted channels. "Signal triangulation confirms it," she said. "He's inside the building. Multiple points. He's orchestrating everything from here." Levi's eyes narrowed. Then it's time. Jasmine, stay behind me. Ethan, show us what you know. Mia, keep your eyes on communications. Everyone ready? Jasmine nodded, swallowing her fear. The adrenaline coursing through her veins made her feel both fragile and unstoppable at the same time. She had survived the network's attacks, discovered betrayals, and uncovered truths that had shattered her world. Now it was time to confront the one who had orchestrated it all. They moved cautiously, every step calculated, every shadow a potential threat. The warehouse was enormous, filled with crates and industrial equipment that cast long, shifting shadows. The distant hum of machinery echoed ominously. Then from the darkness a voice rang out. Calm, measured, chilling. Well, the little sister survives, the voice said. Jasmine's blood ran cold. The voice was familiar, yet distorted by the distance and echoes of the warehouse. Levi signaled for silence. Show yourself, he commanded. A figure emerged from the shadows, a tall man impeccably dressed, exuding authority and control. His eyes were sharp, calculating, and fixed on Jasmine. For a moment she felt fear pierce her soul like an icy dagger. The mastermind. The one who had orchestrated Sierra's death, the handler, the network, the threats. They were all pawns under this man's control. And now he was here. You, Jasmine whispered, recognition dawning. It's Gregory Hale. The man smiled, slow and cruel. Very perceptive. Yes, Gregory Hale. And you've made this very interesting. Jasmine's chest tightened. Anger, grief, and determination surged through her. Why? Why kill my sister? Why put me in danger? What do you want? Gregory's smile never wavered. It's not personal, Miss Carter. It's business, power, control. Your family's past, your mother's financial history, it made you convenient. But you see, the problem is you survived. You're persistent, curious, and now you're in my way. Levi stepped forward, voice low and controlled. Your manipulations end tonight, Hale. Whatever power you think you hold, it ends here. Gregory's eyes flicked to Ethan, who flinched under the scrutiny. And you, Gregory said, voice cold, were weak, trusted blindly. And now, your little rebellion is nearly crushed. Mia whispered urgently into Levi's earpiece. He's baiting us. Watch for traps. This warehouse is full of escape routes, cameras, and hidden observers. He's confident because he thinks he controls the situation. Jasmine's hands trembled slightly, but her resolve hardened. She wouldn't let fear paralyze her. She wouldn't let Sierra's death be meaningless. You underestimated me, she said, voice steady, meeting Gregory's gaze. You may have orchestrated fear, but we've survived. You're finished. For a moment, silence hung over the warehouse like a dense fog. Then, without warning, Gregory lunged toward a hidden panel in the wall. A section of the warehouse floor shifted, revealing a trapdoor. Levi reacted instantly, tackling Gregory to the ground just as he tried to escape. Jasmine screamed, fear and adrenaline flooding her system. The mastermind struggled, but Levi's grip was iron. Mia quickly hacked into the warehouse's internal network, shutting down surveillance cameras and triggering locks throughout the building. He's trapped now, she said. Ethan stepped forward cautiously, guilt and fear mingling in his expression. Jasmine, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't realize how far it went. But we can end this now. Jasmine's gaze softened briefly at Ethan's words. Betrayal, grief, and anger still lingered, but she knew the fight wasn't personal. It was about survival, truth, and justice. Levi restrained Gregory as police sirens wailed in the distance, approaching rapidly. Your reign ends here, Levi said, voice firm. No more manipulation, no more fear. Gregory's eyes burned with fury, but the realization dawned. He had lost. His network, his control, his plans, all dismantled in one calculated strike. Hours later, Jasmine sat on the edge of a bench outside the warehouse, wrapped in a blanket, exhausted but alive. The mastermind had been arrested, the handler neutralized, and the network's immediate threat dismantled. Mia sat beside her, laptop closed. It's over, for now, she said. They won't rise again so easily. But you've survived and that counts. Levi placed a hand on Jasmine's shoulder. You've been through hell. But you're stronger than you know. Sierra's death, it's not forgotten. And now you've helped ensure justice. Jasmine looked at the night sky, the city lights glimmering in the distance. A mix of grief and relief washed over her. It's finally over? She asked quietly. For now, Levi said. Life isn't perfect, but you've survived. You've fought. And you've won. Jasmine closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. Sierra's memory was no longer just pain, it was purpose. She had faced betrayal, danger, and the unimaginable, and she had survived. As the dawn crept over the city, Jasmine knew this wasn't the end of challenges. But she also knew that with courage, allies, and determination, she could face anything. The nightmare had ended, but her story, her life, and her resilience had only just begun. The city of Atlanta hummed with life, indifferent to the storm that had raged in the shadows just days before. Jasmine Carter sat in a small, sunlit cafe downtown, a steaming cup of coffee in her hands. The warmth seeped into her palms, grounding her after weeks of fear, betrayal, and heartbreak. The mastermind, Gregory Hale, had been arrested. The handler neutralized. Ethan Reynolds had been placed under protective custody, and the network's operatives dismantled or in hiding. The immediate danger was gone, but the echoes of what had happened still lingered in Jasmine's mind. She took a slow breath, feeling the weight of her emotions pressing down on her chest. Relief, grief, anger, and sorrow, all tangled together like storm clouds threatening to spill. But amidst the chaos, there was a faint yet persistent glimmer of hope. Sierra's memory had not been in vain. Levi Matthews slid into the seat across from her, his presence calm and reassuring. He didn't speak immediately, allowing Jasmine to gather herself. You're looking better, he said finally, his tone gentle. Jasmine smiled weakly. I feel different, lighter somehow, but also haunted. I don't think the nightmares will ever fully go away. Levi nodded, understanding etched into his features. You survived more than most could imagine. And now you get to decide how to live with it. Remember, courage isn't about not feeling fear. It's about facing it anyway. Mia Collins joined them, laptop in hand, though it remained closed. The network is effectively neutralized, she said. I've monitored every major connection. For now at least they can't reach you. Jasmine's hands trembled slightly as she processed everything. I never imagined someone I trusted could betray me. That he could. Levi reached across the table, placing a firm but comforting hand on hers. Betrayal cuts deep, but you've learned to navigate it. You've faced it, survived it, and grew stronger. That's not weakness, it's power. Over the next few weeks, Jasmine began rebuilding her life. She returned to her apartment, slowly restoring normalcy, and reconnecting with friends who had supported her quietly from the sidelines. The grief for Sierra remained, but Jasmine transformed it into motivation, a way to honor her sister's memory by living fully and purposefully. She even began volunteering at a local community center, working with at-risk youth, mentoring and sharing her story to guide those who might be facing fear, manipulation, or betrayal of their own. The work was healing, a bridge between her trauma and the chance to make a difference. One afternoon, Levi and Mia joined her at the community center for a meeting. Jasmine looked at them with a mixture of gratitude and determination. You too saved my life, she said quietly. But you also taught me something else. That even when the world is cruel, even when people betray you, there's still a way forward. Mia smiled. It wasn't just us. You faced fear head-on, Jasmine. You didn't let them break you. That's what matters. Levi added, and remember, this isn't just the end of a story, it's the beginning of your next chapter. You survived what most would consider impossible. Now it's time to live, to thrive, and to honor those you've lost by carrying their memory forward. As the weeks turned into months, Jasmine grew stronger. The nightmares became less frequent, replaced by determination and purpose. She started writing her own journal, chronicling her experiences, both as therapy and as a record for others who might face similar battles. Ethan Reynolds had remained in custody, cooperating with authorities to dismantle the remaining network cells. Jasmine felt conflicted. He had betrayed her and her sister, but she also understood the value of justice tempered with perspective. Anger still lingered, but it was no longer consuming her. One evening, sitting on the balcony of her apartment, Jasmine looked at the city skyline, the sun setting in shades of orange and gold. She thought of Sierra, the sister whose life had been cut short but whose memory had become a source of strength. "I'll live for both of us," Jasmine whispered, a sense of resolve settling in her heart. "I'll make sure your story matters. I won't let fear win." The phone rang, breaking the silence. It was Mia. "Jasmine," Mia said, her voice calm, "I just wanted to check in. How are you?" "I'm okay," Jasmine replied, smiling despite herself. "Better than okay. I feel free somehow." "Good," Mia said. "You earned it. And remember, we'll always be here if you need us." Jasmine hung up and leaned back, the cool evening breeze brushing against her face. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to feel something other than fear. Relief, yes, but also hope. And determination. Life would never be the same. It could never erase the pain, the betrayals, or the losses. But it could be lived fully, fiercely, and with purpose. Sierra's memory, the lessons of survival, and the bonds forged in the crucible of danger would guide her forward. As darkness settled over the city, Jasmine smiled. She was no longer just a survivor. She was a fighter, a witness, and a storyteller. Her story wasn't finished. It had only just begun. A faint buzz from Jasmine's laptop caught her attention. An encrypted message appeared and signed, "You've survived, but the story isn't over. Are you ready for what comes next?" The early morning sun poured over Atlanta like a promise of new beginnings. Jasmine Carter stood on the rooftop of her small apartment building, looking out across the city she had come to both fear and cherish. Life had been a labyrinth of betrayal, grief, and danger, yet somehow she had emerged stronger, wiser, and unbroken. Months had passed since the arrest of Gregory Hale and the dismantling of his network. The terror that had once shadowed her every step had receded, leaving behind a mixture of resolve, caution, and purpose. Jasmine's world was quieter now, but it was alive. Every street, every familiar skyline reminded her of survival, resilience, and the power of courage. Levi Matthews had remained a constant presence, not intrusive but steadfast. His guidance had been crucial, his calm authority a lighthouse in the storm of Jasmine's life. And Mia Collins, once a stranger with mysterious skills, had become more than an ally. She was now a mentor and friend, guiding Jasmine in navigating both the aftermath and the unexpected threats that lingered just beyond sight. Jasmine had returned to her routine, volunteering at the community center, mentoring young people, and sharing her story with those who needed hope. The memory of Sierra had been transformed from grief into motivation, fueling Jasmine's determination to help others who felt powerless or trapped. One afternoon, Jasmine hosted a small group of teenagers in a classroom at the center. She watched as they shared their challenges, stories of neglect, bullying, and fear. Her own heart ached as she listened, remembering the nights she had spent in terror, and the moments she had felt utterly alone. "You may feel like life is against you," Jasmine said softly, "but there's always a way forward. Fear doesn't have to control you. Courage doesn't mean you're not afraid, it means you face it anyway. And you can survive even when it feels impossible." The room was quiet, the words resonating. Jasmine knew the truth in her message because she had lived it. She had faced death, betrayal, and loss, yet she had endured. After the session, Jasmine stepped outside to the quiet of the parking lot. The city hummed softly around her. She breathed deeply, savoring the simple pleasure of calm. It was a luxury she had once taken for granted, but now she cherished every peaceful moment. Later that evening, Levi and Mia arrived for a meeting. Jasmine welcomed them warmly, grateful for their continued presence in her life. "You've come far," Levi said, his gaze steady. "The network is gone. The threats have been neutralized. But your journey isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving. What will you do next?" Jasmine paused, thinking carefully. "I want to help people," she said finally. I want to make sure no one else feels the fear I've felt. I want to turn pain into purpose." Mia smiled, closing her laptop. "Then you're already on your way. You've survived what most couldn't imagine. And now you're transforming that survival into something meaningful." Levi nodded. "And remember, even when life throws shadows your way, you've already learned the skills to navigate them. You're stronger than you realize." Weeks turned into months and Jasmine continued to grow. She began writing her story, not just as a record of what had happened, but as a guide, a beacon for others navigating fear, betrayal, and grief. The process was therapeutic, each word a step toward reclaiming her life. Her interactions at the community center deepened, and she became a trusted mentor to many. Her story spread quietly, inspiring others to confront their fears and stand up against injustice. Even Ethan Reynolds, the friend who had betrayed her, had begun cooperating fully with authorities, providing insights that helped dismantle the last remnants of the network. Jasmine had learned forgiveness, not for him but to free herself from the chains of anger. One crisp morning, Jasmine received an envelope at her apartment. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened it, expecting a threat, a warning, or something that would dredge up old fears. Instead, it was a simple note. "Courage is never wasted. The story continues in ways you cannot yet see. A friend." Jasmine smiled softly. It wasn't a threat. It was a reminder that her journey was ongoing, that the world was unpredictable, and that she had the strength and resilience to meet whatever came next. That evening, Jasmine stood on the rooftop again, overlooking the city. The skyline was familiar, yet new, a symbol of survival, of resilience, and of life reclaimed. The memory of Sierra lingered, no longer a source of pain but a guiding light. Every challenge, every betrayal, every fear she had faced had led her to this moment. Jasmine closed her eyes, feeling the wind on her face, the pulse of the city below, and the certainty in her heart. She was no longer just a survivor. She was a fighter, a mentor, a storyteller, and a beacon of hope. And as the night settled in, Jasmine understood something profound. Life could be terrifying, unpredictable, and cruel, but courage, love, and resilience could transform even the darkest experiences into something meaningful. A faint ping from her laptop lit the screen, an anonymous, encrypted message: "You've grown strong, but darkness never sleeps. Be ready."